It is now time to experience the buzz, a podcast that takes an inside look at amazing people doing amazing things. Get ready for some great conversation that will be fascinating, educational, and inspiring. We will also leave room to help small businesses in a big way. Now, here's your host, entrepreneur Steve Buzzard.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in. It's another edition of Experience the Buzz. My name is Steve Buzzard, your host, and we're so excited to be with you again. This is episode number 122, and today a bucket list item for me. I am a big heavy metal fan, and we have got the lead singer of a metalcore band that is from Sacramento. It is called A Moment's Notice, and the lead singer, or screamer, as they like to be called, is Greg Molina. And so I can't tell you how pumped I am, okay? I'm doing the intro after the fact, meaning we've already done the interview. And let me just say, this is going to be so much fun. So whether you like heavy metal or metalcore, it doesn't matter. Because what is the essence of this interview is the story behind Greg Molina, what he is all about. You're going to be blown away about his journey of getting to where he is now. And it's cool because his band right now, they're just getting going, but yet he has all these years of experience that have set him up for this moment where this band, they're going to be big. It's that simple. So, and I don't want to give too much away because the way we met, the way how we came together, it was so beautiful. So that's going to be today, and we're going to have more on Greg in just a moment, but now it's time for What's the Buzz? And I'm just going to say this. We are looking for a sponsor. We've got 3 that have been intact from almost day one. Of course, R5 Stitch and Print, Pit Boss Jerky, and Little Whale Swim School. But I want to invite you, especially if you're a small business, folks, this is a great platform to get your name out there. And the way to do it is to go on to buzzardball.com, and you will see the link that will lead you to the section of where we do this show. And then you can find out about sponsorship. And of course, you can reach out to me and I'll be glad to help you. Also, as we are airing this, it is the big day of giving. And last week, we talked to Carrie Wood, who is the CEO, and she runs the big day of giving. So I would invite you to check that out because the big day of giving is coming and happening, I believe, tomorrow when this is aired. But that is What's the Buzz. We are just looking for a new sponsor. We'd love for a small business like you to get on board and just try it out and see if the platform works for you. I am very, very flexible in terms of how you want to get the word out. Just ask our 3 sponsors, like I said, R5 Stitch and Print, along with Little Whale Swim School and Pit Boss Jerky. Now, back to our guest, and I don't want to waste any time. You know what? I was thinking that we should open up with maybe a portion of the song. So I'm going to leave that to my producer, Michael Kenobi. He may do that for you, and then we'll go into the interview. If not, don't worry. We're going to give you all of the links where you can find them. But again, this is Greg Molina. He is the lead singer of A Moment's Notice, a metalcore band right here from Sacramento. And yes, I will be acting like a kid in a candy store. Enjoy the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome in. It is Experience the Buzz podcast. I am Steve Buzzard. I'm very excited for today. I'm wearing metal. Finally got to see a show. It's been a while. Saw Gojira and Mastodon with Lorna Shore opening up. For those of you out there in Sacramento, this one is going to be a little bit different than you're used to, but I think, and I actually feel that it's very necessary. I am talking to a lead singer of a metalcore band called A Moment's Notice. They are just beginning their journey. I want to explain the connection first. Actually, let me welcome in our guest, then I'll get to the connection. Greg Molina, the screamer, the lead vocalist, is with us. Greg, welcome to Experience the Buzz.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Okay, believe it or not, this guy's got a 9-to-5 job. So if you think he just goes out and he's just the lead singer of the band, no, so much more than that. But I think things are going to change for this band. So let me just explain the connection. He is would you call yourself a hairstylist? Perfect. What do you call yourself in that industry? Just a barber. Okay, I want to make sure that I've got it right. So he is a barber at Jimmy's Garage. A lot of you in Sacramento would know that place right in downtown. They open up the garage doors, has a great venue, great aesthetic to it. And me and my son Max are getting our hair done, right? We're just getting a nice haircut, little buzz cut. I get into the chair with a guy named Travis. We start talking. Max is to my left, and Greg is cutting his hair, okay? Unbeknownst to me, great experience. We get out of there, we start walking away, and I said, how'd it go? And he said, well, Dad, the guy who cut my hair, his name's Greg, and he's the lead singer of a band. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, okay, did he give you the name? And I think you told him the name, A Moment's Notice. We look it up on Spotify, and we realize it's a metalcore band. And so we try a track, which is their initial track, which is called Offerings. And I just lost it. I absolutely lost it because I'm like, this is going to be a great experience. So the next step was to then do what is called our first look reaction. So if you check out our first look series, we had a lot of fun with that. And of course, I did Offerings, gave it high numbers for obvious reasons. A really good song, checks all the boxes of a song that I like in metalcore. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to try. I'm going to reach out to Greg. And I thought about calling Jimmy's Garage, but I'm like, you know what? Just find him on Instagram. And Greg was very gracious to get right back to me and set this up, and here we are today. So Greg, I'm very excited. I told you before we got on, I'm like a kid in the candy store. I've been dreaming of this moment because not only have I wanted to talk to someone in a band, but getting the lead vocalist I think is like a huge thing. So let's just do this first. Let's introduce A Moment's Notice to the Sacramento area, and I don't care if they don't like metalcore or not. I want them to know what you're all about.
Yeah. A Moment's Notice was originally kind of an idea that I started as a solo project. I never really wanted to really go anywhere with it. I just kind of wanted to do an internet thing and just put out music for fun. I have now an 11-year-old son and a wife and everything, and so touring and stuff just didn't seem like a really good idea at the time in my life. And I just shot for it because my wife and a good friend of mine, Jared from Suffocate, was like, he was the original vocalist, and they were both like, you need to do this. And I was like, I don't know. And Nick Miller from A Skylit Drive from Lodi, I had reached out to him, and he basically got back to me and was like, hey man, I'm going to record you, and laid down 2 singles, very different than what Offerings is. But it was just me kind of testing the waters and seeing if I even wanted to do it again. And so I've even thought about taking the music down from Spotify sometimes, but people like listening to it because I keep seeing the numbers go up. So I'm like, whatever, I'll just keep it. But yeah, it just kind of happened out of nowhere. We released Offerings in April of last year, and it hit 10K this year. And we put out an EP in August 23rd of last year. And since then, it just kind of has been back-to-back shows, festivals, tours. We were received very well, and I'm not exactly sure how or why or what's going on, but I'm not upset about it. I'm enjoying it.
Of course not. Well, there's something special there. And, with the song itself, talk about the song Offerings because it's good. I think often people will listen to heavy metal, or in this case, metalcore, where it goes a little bit deeper and stuff. And people forget that there are lyrics with intention, right? Yeah. I think that's one of those facades that people don't realize. And so when you explain this, I think it will help kind of bring to light that, yeah, this is not me just up there screaming to scream. There's intention behind what we do.
Yeah. So the song starts out with the main line, and it's "You make me fucking sick," and it's talking about people who were telling me when I first got back into this, you're getting too old, you have a family, what are you doing? Even my uncle was like, now he's in a band, he's doing this, like, what is he doing? Nobody really like understood it. And Offerings was basically the way that we all kind of agreed that we were going to come out with a song that was very personal. It was going to say to basically drop the metaphorical blade from our wrist with your words, and we're going to continue to do what we do. Because this music isn't just us doing music, it's something that we love passionately and we enjoy so much. And, releasing Offerings was kind of like the whole reason behind the lyrics was just me saying, this is my offering to everyone. Please, give us the time.
Yeah. So it's like it's your signature song. And we did a segment on First Look, and we were talking about, when you kind of you put yourself out there, you guys hit it like it's a home run, because as I was listening to it, for me, it checked all the boxes that I like in a heavy metal song. And it's interesting because in our conversations, I was telling you like about this experience that I was going through with doing this, heavy metal thunder First Look thing. I said, yeah, like I'm the Gojira and Mastodon guy. But wasn't it ironic that just moments ago when I saw these two bands together, the band that opened up for them was Lorna Shore. Well, Lorna Shore was the first video that we looked at. We looked at The Pain Remains, the first installment, and there was Will Ramos, and you're very familiar with Will Ramos. And then I started mentioning to you, I really like Amir, I like Kublai Khan, and you're like, yep, those are the bands we like too. And so it's kind of created this cool force of like, man, it's great to see this new metal kind of taking place.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm like kindred spirits with Will at this point in my life, because like I've always looked at him. There's only 3 Puerto Ricans that are in this genre that I know of. Will Ramos, Taylor Barber, and myself.
Nice.
I know a few locals that are, but not as many big name vocalists are Puerto Rican. It just doesn't come from our style of music is not that. It's reggaeton, and it's very different. And so a Puerto Rican getting up there and doing that to their family, it's very bizarre for my family. And my mom actually learned to love it a lot. A lot of my family members actually really love it, which is kind of wild because they're very much not into it. But they're like, oh yeah, we listen to you. And they're like, we don't listen to the style, but we listen to your music all the time. And I'm like, that's so wild to think about. I'm like, so when something else comes on shuffle, you guys just kind of are like, nah, we're going back to whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, I guess.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, but it's because they love you, Greg. I mean, come on, your family, right? So there's something special. But I get what you're saying. It's like, but nothing else kind of registers or whatever. But there's that special association with you. So this is interesting because you're in this stage of your life, right? You said married, you have an 11-year-old son. And obviously, was this a passion before? Because I did find in very, like, there's not very much out there about you guys, but I did catch a few things where your first album was Linkin Park. Mine, by the way, was Iron Maiden's Run to the Hills. Best show you said was in Elk Grove at age 17. I don't know if that's one you attended or the one you sang in. Kind of take me through your journey of how kind of you got to where you are today.
About 17 years ago, I went to go see Bone of Osiris.
Okay.
And I was like, I saw them with the Warriors, Walls of Jericho, and As Blood Runs Black, and they played Bow Down, and I just heard that intro, and he just says, "Fucking bow down," and I was like, what the hell is this? I was I was like, oh my god, this is crazy. And I had watched the other bands, and they were cool, they were good, but I was like, holy crap. And now, fast forwards, well, actually before that, going, and that's how I got introduced into this. And then I started playing shows, and then 17 years of age, I played a show, and it was in Elk Grove at a venue called Pop-Ups. That's not there anymore. And there were so many people inside, and there were so many people that couldn't get in. There was a big glass window for the whole venue to look into the venue.
Wow.
And there was not only a pit inside of the venue, but there was an entire crowd outside in another pit throwing down. And so it was like, I was like, holy crap. And this was 17 years of age. Like, I was young. I didn't know it. I didn't even know if I was good.
Yeah.
Because back then, MySpace was like really all it, and it was terrible recordings, and like you had to pay a top dollar. And how do you get a hold of these producers? Because you just have to know somebody. And at the time, like, we were not getting recorded well. and in-ear monitors and digital audio and all that. None of that was a thing back then. So I don't know if it sounded good. And phones were terrible recordings. So good luck finding any of those videos, or any that are even, you can even tell what's going on.
So at that time, Greg, were you just scrapping people together to perform? I mean, what was your band name at that time? What were you?
I was in a band called Ferocia Katora, and we had just gotten off of a tour. I think we were just like I can't remember exactly. I think we had just got done with the tour, or that was like the last stop on the tour. I can't remember exactly. God, it's been so many years.
But at 17, you were doing this.
I was doing it at 15.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. As the minute I got done with that show with Bone of Osiris at the Boardwalk, I pretty much was like, I'm gonna do that. And I was watching MTV Music and watching the music videos that they had on there. I dived into the genre a little bit more. I was listening to punk music because I skated.
Mm-hmm.
But like then I got like super into like the deathcore and the As I Lay Dyings, the Mudvaynes, the Slipknot, Gojira, Mastodon, like stuff like that.
Thank you.
I was trying to get like more into that genre, and I was just trying to just pick it apart and figure out what I liked about it. And then I remember my stepdad at the time, you hear me just blasting As Blood Runs Black. And my friend was like, bro, this band called Suffocate from Oakland, you should check them out. And I was like, okay, sure. I'm from Oakland originally, so I was like, okay, let's figure this out. So I'm listening to it, and I'm like, this guy's fucking crazy. He sounds really, really like low and muffled, but it sounds a little bit too grainy. And I'm like, how do I replicate that but do it differently? And I had figured out little nuances and stuff like that to figure it out, but it wasn't until later on that like it's so weird because now I'm friends with Cameron from Bone of Osiris.
Okay.
And I'm friends with Jared from Suffocate, and Ricky Hoover, who took over for Jared for Suffocate. I'm friends with him now, and I'm just like, this circle is so tiny that I'm like, I bump into one person, and then one person knows this person, and then it's like this like very tight-knit group of people that I just didn't know, like, it's niche. Like, if you're local, you're local.
Right.
But once you get into the bigger leagues or the intermediate leagues, it's like you start networking, and like, this person knows you, and this person knows you, or this person's giving you the time of day, and now you're starting to kind of build these networks of connections, and then eventually you're like, holy shit, I've been listening to this band since I was 15 years old, and I'm going to go hang out with all of Bone of Osiris this weekend.
I mean, that's just got to be like, for you, like the way I'm feeling right now about interviewing you is probably the same way you were feeling like, okay, now I'm in this circle. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like I'm not on their level by any means. Like, they're huge, but like I have this I can have a conversation.
Right.
Where, I go and sit with Jared from Miss May I, and him and I are just bullshitting, just having a beer together. Yeah. And like, I don't drink a lot, so like I'll have like a beer and that's pretty much it. And just talking to him and just bullshitting with him and just having a good time. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, getting to meet like Tom Barber from Chelsea Grin and Darko. Nice. And Darko, the drummer and guitarist for that band, is Josh Miller, and he's in Spite. But little Josh Miller, when he was 12 years old, was going to my shows. Wow. Now he's huge. He's a huge artist. And so it's like, our last show, Josh was there, and he got to watch us play. And it was so crazy because like life, like you don't know where life's going to take you. And now that I'm like starting to kind of gain traction and stuff, I'm like, and like meeting these guys in person, like I'm trying to like build this connection with them where they're like, yo, we believe in what you're doing. Hold on a second. Like,
right.
We're going to make some phone calls. Like we need to get you guys bigger. Like something there is working, and you're not just a local band. And I had an interaction recently that was like that, so I can't talk on it too much, but there's something happening next year that we'll be gone for probably a month or two.
Let's go.
So just somebody believed in us,
Yep.
and they're on like the intermediate level,
Nice.
and they're doing US tours, so there's talks of that happening. So we're hoping that all goes through, but I don't want to say anything and like go against like anything.
That's right. We
So
don't want to jinx anything, but you did break a little news here. So I mean, that's good stuff. And
yeah.
obviously, we applaud that. So let's do a reset. This is Greg Molina, who is joining us on Experience the Buzz. He is the lead vocalist from A Moment's Notice, which is a metalcore band. It's got a great fusion, and they're just getting started. And this is so interesting to me because he used the word networking. There's that word experience that's in here. But we're talking about not only music, but the genre where you wouldn't even know these things. Wait till we start talking about how he does vocals. But let's get to that networking part. This is like any other job, right? You're not just showing up and doing your thing. There's so much that's entailed outside of what your gift is, and that is being able to sing.
Yeah. Networking is huge. I will say it's kind of hard to get me to go to a show.
Okay.
But for one reason. I'm very busy with my band. I'm very busy with my home life and my work life. So every single local show, I already know everybody. So if I show up, I'm showing up. Like, that's cool. And I'm not saying that, oh, I'm better than anybody. I'm saying, I know you. I know who you are. I know what you're about. I know your band. We'll get on a show eventually, and we'll have a good time. If I don't show up to every one of your shows, it's nothing personal. It's just business. I have to handle everything else I need to handle before I go do that. But then you'll catch me going to a show that you wouldn't necessarily think I was going to go to because I don't go out as much. And I went out to a show, and that's how we got offered a potential tour for next year.
Okay.
Because my wife had sat there and went, this might be a really good opportunity for you to network. And so I did. And then they were like, we love you. We love your music. You guys need to be bigger. We're going to bring you on a tour.
Okay. So see, you've got the business savvy, you know. And so that's what I'm curious about, connecting the dots to that 15, 17-year-old Greg Molina to where you are now, obviously a wife and kid in between. Did it dip down and bring you back? This obviously is a resurgence, and now you've got like these years of experience that has prepared you for this moment. What happened on the in-between?
So I was 18 years old. We had just got done with a really, really successful show. We were doing like back-to-back shows every weekend in another area, kind of like a mini tour, but it was weekend warrior kind of stuff. So we'd come work our 9 to 5, then we'd go back on the road, then we're back, and then bouncing back and forth. It was hell, but we were playing everywhere. And then at the time, like I talk about this pretty openly because I was very much a party kid. I got addicted to ecstasy, and that is how I got that high.
Gotcha.
And our last show, I just kind of wasn't the best, and I told myself, I was like, nah. I kind of sat there and talked to my mom and stuff, and she was like, what are you gonna do? And then I called the guys and I was like, hey, we gotta have a meeting, like let's all get together. And at the time we were getting looked at some pretty decent sized labels, and I, a couple hours before that, went and signed up to go to the military.
Wow.
And I sat them all down and was like, hey guys, look, I'm going to the Army. I was like, I need to get my shit together. I need to figure out my life. This path that I'm going down is very violent, and I don't see myself going into rehab or doing anything and coming back and not being a product of my environment. And it was probably the most mature idea that I ever came out with as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
And
to make that decision on your own.
Yeah, I just didn't like the road I was going down. And it was kind of cool because when I ended up leaving the band, my last day before I left to basic training, like we had a party. And a lot of friends came together, but my old band played one last show. and their new vocalist came up and did their thing, and they were, we just had a good time, and it was like a send off for me, and it was super cool. And I've seen the guys a few times. Don't talk to all of them anymore, just because time has passed, and I don't even know where half of them are anymore. I know where a few are, and like they like, hey man, heard you still doing music, man. I know what happened for you, and like they check out our music, and they're like, hey man, like random times they'll pop in and out of my life, and they'll be like, dude, you guys are killing it, man. Keep going. And I'm like, hell yeah, thanks, man. And they're like, like, have you, now that you're back in the life, are you like worried about addiction or anything like that? I was like, nah, I don't even like drink. I was like, I'll have like a beer, and then if somebody like is like, take a shot, I'm like, hell no, get away from me. So like, I'm very self-aware of that. I know that you can go down that road easily, so I don't put myself in that position. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a stranger to telling you no. Then I'll just be 100% honest. And somebody's like, do it, man, you're being a pussy. I'll be like, that's cool. Call me a pussy. I don't care. Yeah. Like, I'm very, very...
Let me sing for you.
Yeah, dude, I haven't... I live by this, like, model of, like, I have nothing to prove to anybody other than myself.
Love it.
Like, I don't... Like, you can say mm-hmm. anything you want about me, but at the end of the day, I don't really care, because I know who I am, and I know what I'm going to bring to the table, and I'm not going to be a terrible person. I'm not going to, I've watched my friends get into drinking terribly, and like they're alcoholics. Yeah. And I've watched people get addicted to pills or cocaine and stuff, and I'm like, I just don't want to go down that road, so I choose not to.
So Greg, how much time did you spend in the Army, and what was your biggest takeaway as you came back to civilian life?
I spent about almost 7 years in special operations.
Okay.
If you've ever seen the movie Blackhawk Down, the movie was about the unit, the 160th. I was actually in the 160th.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So you not only went into the Army, that's intense.
Yeah, I went through basic training, AIT, which is advanced individual training, and then first 3 years of the Army, I actually got scouted to go be an MMA fighter for the Army. So I fought for a few years, and then I went to selection, passed selection, got my beret, and then I went to a bunch of schools and then deployed and, did all that. Transitioning.
And by the way, Greg, this is why you're on the show. See, this is the blueprint for what I'm trying to tell people. It's like everybody has an amazing story. Yes, you're in a metalcore band, but this piece, like, I know it's played a big part in where you are today. And so being able to uncover that is like, I don't know, just gives me goosebumps. So I'm sorry, continue on. I interrupted you.
No, dude, you're totally good. Getting out of the military, that was the hard part.
Okay. Did at some time you were saying, like, this might be my life? Because it seems like 7 years, that's a commitment, not only to be in the Army, but what you were doing. I would imagine that there was a piece of you that was, you were enjoying this. You were liking what you were doing. The fact that you were so at the top percentage of where the Army would be.
Yeah. I honestly wanted to retire out.
Okay.
I jumped out of an airplane, my last jump, and pretty much destroyed my knees and my back. Oh. And they were like, you're going to get pulled off of jump status. And they said I had to go back to the conventional Army. And I couldn't do it.
Okay.
And they gave me the option, get out or go back to the conventional Army. And I said I wasn't going to do it. So they got me out under honorable conditions. I got out honorably, no problems there. But getting out, I had a huge identity crisis.
Okay.
Of not knowing who I was anymore. Because civilian Greg wasn't the same as the sergeant, staff sergeant. I was a leader. I was a platoon sergeant. I had my life. So the therapist that was helping me through my PTSD and my anxiety and depression and stuff, he said the Army does a really good job of training soldiers to go to war, but they don't train them to do a great job to get out of war. And I severely got back into drinking.
Oh, wow.
And one day I was like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I got to do something. And I went to college and kept my mind really busy with a shit ton of credits. And went to college 3 times, actually.
Okay, so how old were you at that point?
26.
Okay, 26. So you made these big decisions at 18 and then at 26. Same thing, like it was you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole entire time I was in the Army and stuff like that, like I had practiced screaming and stuff like that, but never really anything like I was going to be in a band, I was going to do stuff. Like, it was just me like in the car driving to work.
Okay, or jumping out of a plane,
Yeah, like I'd be having music in and I'd be listening to like some crazy ass music and people were like, I don't even understand it. And I'm like, that's fine, I don't care. And I had to like kind of start realizing there was little things about me that like I just couldn't do.
Yeah.
Because one, I will sulk into my own depression or something and I'll start drinking more. So that wasn't going to be a thing. I wasn't going to get on anything that was going to give me a crutch to do it. I had to work my own crap out. And it meant more to me when I came back and started doing A Moment's Notice, because, the music started kind of talking about my past, the way I felt about things. With Under the Skyline, I talked about a lot of my distaste for the wealth of people and the greediness in humanity, and how they sit on their skyline looking below at us as if we're lesser. And we're not, and humans are greater than machines is a term in the military in special operations. But I say a line in there that says, we are greater than machines. Meaning, like, we're better than that. Like, we're better than what the product of what the military conformed me to be. And I don't hate the military by any means, but the choices of the people who are affluent for the people who weren't always left a sour taste in my mouth. So I had always had these feelings and emotions and stuff, but I never handled them in a healthy manner. Then A Moment's Notice became a thing, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Came together.
Victims is about my addiction.
There we go.
The first lyrics of it are, what a waste to play the victim, your delusions and your reality. And I'm talking about, being consumed by the ones who tell their lies, like, just to fit your own narrative in your own head. And then I say something about fictional bliss in a pill form. Try to ignore how you were born. You're just another pawn to please conform. And then it talks about, and it goes into it, and then it says the punchline, get fucked. And I'm like, because like that old me can get fucked. Like, I don't care about him, and I won't be that person. So I'm channeling it all in a healthy manner rather than it being a negative one.
And so do you recognize, like you say, that's part of my story, but it's not who I am today. It's part of me, not who I am.
Exactly.
Yep. Gosh, it's so powerful. So powerful. And this is just segment 1. That's right. We're going to take a break, and we're coming back, and we're going to dive into 2 things. We're going to talk to Greg about being a vocalist, okay? So he is a screamer, and he has no problems telling you that. He is very good at what he does. But how does he do it? I've always wanted to get that answer. He's going to dive into that, and then we're going to talk about his day job. He actually has a day job. We kind of uncovered it. He works at Jimmy's Garage. So how does this work? Although we see things changing for the band, it's pretty cool to think, wow, he's got that 9-to-5 job. He's taking care of his family, but yet he's really living out a dream, and it's really coming together. And it didn't just happen like that. It's been years of experience that have brought him and his bandmates to this moment, which is going to be a great one. I know it's going to be big for A Moment's Notice. So we'll take a break, hear from our 3 sponsors, and come back with our final installment with Greg Molina, lead vocalist of A Moment's Notice. Don't go anywhere. All right, throw up the horns, right? Come on, metalheads. How was that for our first segment? Now you know a little bit more, and I invite you, as this conversation is continuing, to check them out. A Moment's Notice. And isn't Greg awesome? I mean, that's great. I mean, that was some good stuff. And what if I told you it gets even better in the next segment coming your way? This is just that little break that we'd like to throw in, both on the audio side and the video side, to thank our sponsors, right? They're the ones that make the engine run. We don't have a lot that is paid for. It's just my producer and stuff, and I do this just for the love. So we do thank our three sponsors who are amazing. So let's get to them. R5 Stitch and Print, run by Troy Rousey, Pit Boss Jerky, run by Joe Green, and Little Whale Swim School, run by Anya Hall. Now, all three of those people I just mentioned, that's another part of sponsorship, is we feature you on the show. You get your own episode that you can embed on your website. You can share through social media. I'm always looking at win-win partnerships. So that's what we do here. The first to be featured of the three was Anya Hall. She was in episode 6. They are the premier swim school in Sacramento, located at 4106 El Camino Avenue. And it's always summer at Little Whale, but then again, summer is just around the corner. Also, if you're a teenager out there, great way to look for a job. They are always hiring there. Great job. Put it on your resume. Hopefully spend a couple summers there and have a good time. And the way to get to them is littlewhaleswim.com. They're all over social media at Little Whale Swim, or you can call them at 916-790-5945. Next guy that was featured on Experience the Buzz was Troy Rousey in episode 25. He owns R5 Stitch and Print. You can find them at r5print.com. They specialize in screen printing and embroidery. They've got precision stitching. They've got large format printing, and they've got a graphic designer that's in-house that can help you with all your needs. Again, that's r5print.com, or you can call them directly at 916-454-3773. And I will tell you, the story on Troy Rousey is pretty amazing, because in addition to the screen printing and embroidery business that he has, he also owns a motorcycle apparel business. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And so he talks about that in his episode on episode 25. So you got to go to the archives for that one. And finally, we want to thank the pit boss, Joe Green. He was featured in episode number 26. He's just got amazing beef jerky. This is a local guy. He's a mad scientist, great guy, and even was very kind enough to name a flavor after our show. That's right. I got to be a part of that process. It was a lot of fun. It is called Experience the Buzz. Other flavors, raspberry, apple, chipotle. I think a crowd favorite is island teriyaki. You got a keto mix, and then you got other great flavors. Now, how do you get your hands on it? Well, all you have to do is call the order board at 916-769-6807, or you can go in person to Amy Hardware at their 3 locations, 2 in Sacramento, 1 in El Dorado Hills. It is there waiting for you, and it comes at a very affordable cost. Or if you're up in Auburn, they are also featured in Knee Deep Brewery. So those are our sponsors. Once again, we'd love for anybody to come on board. If you'd like to join the 3, we've got a spot for you. So let's go ahead and get back to our conversation with Greg Molina, the lead singer of A Moment's Notice, right here on Experience the Buzz.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
All right, welcome back. This is definitely a special edition for me, being the metalhead that I am. Check out First Look. It's kind of under the umbrella if you're on the video side of our YouTube channel. We kind of started it 6 months ago, just doing reaction videos to new heavy metal, and it's been a lot of fun. We've got about 86 to 90 videos, and one of them is from a Sacramento band, and that is A Moment's Notice, and we are speaking with Greg Molina. I kind of did a 2-for-1. We did a little thing on First Look, but then I'm like, man, I've got to have you on as a guest on the podcast, because even though he was from Oakland, he is now in Sacramento with his family. And Greg, diving into it, we really uncovered a lot. And again, I thank you for sharing what you did, and just your story and kind of what you've gone through. And here you are with the band, what's happening. You're kind of all in on it. I want to talk to you as a vocalist, like you are a screamer. And so the burning question always has been for me, how do you do it? And I know that's a common question that you get, but can you really unfold that for people? Because it's not as easy as just stepping on stage and doing your thing. There's a lot of prep.
Oh man, yeah. So surprisingly enough, singing actually plays a really big part in this. Knowing where to push from either your diaphragm, what vocal cords. There's 2 types of screaming. false chord and fry screaming. They're fairly similar but very different. To the person that would actually know what they sound like, they would know. But most people hear just screaming. But then there's also subgenres of each thing. So there's a lot of right ways to do it. There are also a lot of wrong ways to do it, though. A lot of what I try to do, I went to Extreme Vocal Institute, which Dave does a really great job over there. He has a bunch of classes that really help you kind of unfold how to like really figure out how to get your voice a lot better. A big thing for me was when I first started, I wasn't doing it right. I figured that out. Years later, I ended up figuring out how to do it. And
what was it? What was that tweak?
It was not having so much force. Instead of going huh, into everything, it was more fluid, like I'm talking.
Gotcha.
I started realizing that there were a lot of little nuances that I had to start changing in how I screamed in order to get those super low like vocals that even on the songs we have now, I haven't done yet. I had just done a feature for a friend for their live performance, and a few friends were like, "Since when could you scream like that?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "I didn't know you could get that low." And I was like, "I think I figured it out. I think I figured out how to get it properly instead of forcing it." Where I was doing false chord a lot and doing more mids to highs, I figured out how to tap into the lower end of my registry where I can really lower my voice. But I learned how to get it there where it's a certain way I have to move my tongue, the breath that it puts into it. There's just little pieces that I had to keep putting together. In the best way to explain it, screaming is like a spider web. Everything inside of it, there's two sides of the spider web, left and a right side for me, and false chord and fries. And I had to figure out all the little interconnected web parts before I got to the soul part of it. And so for me, I would listen to Lorna Shore and listen to what Will did, or Taylor Barber from Left to Suffer, or Tom Barber from Chelsea Grin, or Frankie from Amir, Jonathan Vigil from The Ghost Inside. Who else is an inspiration? Ricky Hoover from Suffocate, now of Sulfur. I had to piece those things together, but I had to do it different. So figuring out how they did it, I had to watch how their tongue was moving and how to get this nasty sound with putting your tongue at the bottom of your teeth and then turning it at a 45 and just keep alternating it, which is a lot of tongue articulation. You have to do that. But then making it listenable where you can hear the words, which was another completely different challenge that I had to figure out how to do, how I had to enunciate properly to get it across. But now I have to figure out how to do that with the lower end. And I'm still trying to figure that out. Yeah. It loses a little bit, but like if you listen to screaming music, eventually you'll be like, okay, cool, I can get it.
Right.
But it's gonna take me time to get there.
See, I love that because you're still learning. You're still in that process of learning, which I absolutely love. So my observations, and I shared this with you already, but for this podcast, when you take the song Offerings, which is kind of your stamp of like, we're here, right? Right. I feel like you've got different layers. Like when I listen to most of the songs that I've looked at in First Look, there's maybe two levels that I hear from bands. And then you've got ones that'll get melodical, whether they're doing it or someone else is doing it. I admit I'm not a huge fan of that. I like aggression and just come at me. You've got like three layers. And it was so cool when you talked about Offerings and you talked about that moment, that 2-minute mark. Man, I knew it in a second because it's that pause and then you just bring it. And it's like it's from the depths of your belly. And you gave it a term like thug, like kind of that feel. Kind of explain that.
Yeah. I was actually on a podcast and the guy was talking to me about it. And he's like, I don't know what it is about your vocals. He's like, but it almost comes across like thug. You scream like how some of the nastiest rap artists get in there and they say things and you're like, oh god damn, that sounds mean.
Right.
Like it's angry. Um, that's what I kind of tried to do with this, and it's like where you hear a song like Offerings and the initial reaction is just like, holy crap, what the hell was that?
Right.
Like you hear that 2 minute mark and it never ceases to impress me when we play it live to a new city.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction from people is like, holy god, what the hell, that came out of nowhere, because I don't do it in every song.
Right.
We're getting closer to releasing a new song where we've got some works in it, but I do this almost kind of like a short version of it, but it's more of like a bleh, but I turned my tongue hella and it just creates this bleh, and like everyone's just like, ew, that was gross. And I try to like make it this moment where people are like, oh yeah, this is, what the hell was that? And
Right.
I'm like, yeah, that was kind of, I just threw that out. And we're also writing a new song, which is I will say probably the craziest thing I've ever done.
Love it.
The breakdown's pretty disgusting, but I let out something kind of similar to Offerings, but in a way different fashion that probably no one is going to expect out of me, and it goes on for a good 5 seconds.
Wow.
Maybe 10. And
so you're giving us a little preview here. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting. We recorded it and I just kind of was like, oh, that's going to be really sucky to do live. I can already tell it's going to take everything out of me to do it. So I'm excited for the challenge of it, but it's definitely going to be a battle.
Well, in listening to you though, it's like I feel like based on everything you've shared about your experiences with, just with the drugs and everything that you've gone through, the drinking and the army and stuff, it's like I just feel like it seems like your personality is like, yeah, that's challenging, but I'm willing to do it. Like you're in that place where the challenge is like, yeah, it's there, but bring it on. And so that's what I'm wondering is your preparation for going in the booth and recording a song as opposed to your preparation for when you go live on stage. That's what always blows me away, because I'll take Will Ramos for example, because I just had the opportunity to see him live, which was great. What amazed me about him is that he screams and then boom, flip of a switch, he's talking to you. And I don't know why. It seems like that shouldn't be a big deal, but it is, because there's no what's the word? Interruption with his voice, and he's got a very deep voice. I'm like, okay, well, that's probably lends to what he can do. But am I on the right path with, that and then your preparation?
Yeah, I mean, the preparation for both is pretty much the exact same. I go into the same mindset that I'm like, I'm doing this. I don't talk a lot.
Okay.
I'm actually like I'll talk, but I never really raise my voice. A thing that my band learned about me is that I'll talk, but I don't talk without meaning.
Gotcha. So you maximize your words coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, I don't. A coworker of mine at Jimmy's actually said that he was like, you don't just say things to say them. If you said them, it was probably for a reason.
Gotcha.
And that's where I get that from. It's not my words. It's actually somebody else's words, the way they said, like, you don't speak without intent. And I didn't realize about that of me when I'm in a professional setting, whether it be my band or my work. With my family, completely different story. Banter all day and laughs and jokes and stuff. But
well, they're the ones that deserve the whole you, right? Yes.
Yeah. That my family's my family. They get to have that. Everyone else gets kind of like the snickle fritz for the matter. Like I'll talk. I'll have a good conversation. I enjoy having a good conversation. I think that's great. On tour, I don't really talk as much.
Okay.
If I'm getting ready to go up to the studio, about 3 days before I go into the studio, I haven't said a whole lot of words, and nor have I raised my voice at all. I'm pretty much at this registry all the time.
I love it.
So people are like, "Oh," but like it's preparation. And then I'm drinking tea. I'm drinking a crap ton of water. I'm doing vocal warm ups, every day before I even cut hair. I actually go through like 30 minutes of driving where I'm actually doing vocal warm ups. Because my job is mostly talking.
Yeah.
And so I go through that the same way when I talk to fans and stuff like that. I'll talk to them and I talk, but I'm not really raising my voice a lot, or I'll talk into their ear and like talk to them if it's loud. So I won't really push my voice throughout the night. And then I'm like, I thank them for their time and everything. And I do what I can to be a person outside of this. And then I usually go back to the RV and then I'm drinking tea or something and I'm getting ready for the next day, and I'm kind of just mentally prepping and then go through that, which our whole business model of us ending shows would probably intrigue you, because it's
Okay,
very
well, I mean,
interesting.
here's the moment. I want it all, so please share.
So in the military, we did something that's called index. It's basically everything's done. You talk about what happened, and then we go over everything and see what happened and what we could do better. Um, I do that when we play shows. My manager, my booking agent, if they're in town, um, my whole band, we all sit in the RV, and I sit at the top bunk above the cab, and I sit there and I go, "Here's what happened tonight. Here's what I thought happened good. Here's what I heard that went wrong. Outside of that, here's what we did on merch. Here's what we got at for ticket sales. Here's everything." I lay all the information out, and I'm like, "All right, next." And then the next guy goes, and the next guy goes, and the next guy, and it's a moment for all of us to be like, "You fucked up. You did great tonight. You sounded amazing. Keep it up." Or, "Yeah, man, I messed up. My bad. I had a moment. It's all good. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to fix it, and then we're going to be good." Or, "Hey, the backtracks were a little too loud in my ears. Can we get those turned down for the next day?" And be like, "Okay, cool. Let's do a test real quick before we even get on stage." We test, and we're like, "All right, we're going to play it. All right." Go through our mixer, and like I start mixing everything, and I'm like, "This down or up? Down or up?" And they're like, "Down." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I'm like, "Well, you want more of this?" And they're like, "Yeah, more of this." And then I start mixing everything for them, and then we get everything dialed, and they're like, "Cool." But we go around and make sure everyone's voice is heard in the band, which I've never heard of any bands doing that.
That's big.
But it creates a family. It takes a whole village, and so everyone talks about what they felt went right and what went wrong, and what our plan is for the next day.
Well, and I think it's important that we talk about that village. We haven't named names, but I'm going to let you do that. Talk about the guys in the band. Let's get their names out there,
Yeah.
what they do, and give them a little love.
Yeah. So we have Thomas on guitar. He's fairly new, but he is a powerhouse. The guy plays Polyphia riffs pretty much with his eyes closed and says he's rusty. So we kind of love and hate him for that, because those songs are insanely hard. We have Ben on guitar as well, who's also the bassist for Everglade. And we were on our last tour with them and built a friendship with him. And he ended up joining the band. And we were thrilled to have him to begin with, because we had had such a friendship with him already. Sergio Vega, who's my bassist, has been there since the beginning.
Okay.
Him and I are pretty much the lone survivors of the original lineup. But when anything happens, Sergio and I are pretty much the ones that handle everything. And
Nice.
the guys all trust in us because they know like we've done it for a while now, and we're there with each other. And then we have Ethan on drums, and Ethan actually joined the band 3 weeks before our tour, and
Wow.
learned the songs, practiced twice with us, and then went on tour with us and killed it. And I was like, this dude's a powerhouse. And having all of our friendships together, it's it is hilarious sometimes because I'm like, my stomach hurts listening to them. Like, I can't stand being in the same room with them for too long because I'm like, you guys suck. I'm laughing so hard, my stomach hurts, and I'm crying. Like, I need to get away from you guys. Like, shut up, please. And they're just hilarious. Even my group chat that I'm in with them is hilarious. Like, these guys are like family to me. Like, I love
awesome.
every single one of them for their own individual reasons. Um, they're just the coolest dudes to be around. Like, after we had let certain members go and walking away from certain people,
Yeah.
these guys kind of fell in line, and they sometimes impress me because I'll go get ready to be like, all right, guys, let's get back to and then some Ben or Thomas will be like, hey man, can we run that song back again so I can get it a little bit tighter because I want to get it. And I'm like, son of a bitch, man, dude, you
Yeah.
guys really like. They don't. I don't have to say anything anymore.
Right.
I handle the business aspect of the band, and they're like, you're handling all that? That's a nightmare. We're gonna focus on the music and we're gonna get it right. And I'm like, all right, this is how this works. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna shut up. I'm gonna sit over here. You guys.
Well, that's the thing. You've got guys that are all in, and
Yeah.
you can tell. Like, that's the thing, because like you said, you handle the business side. That's another aspect of it, and it's like, yeah, it's pretty amazing. And so yeah, we want to give the love to Ben Brown, Thomas Ventura, Sergio Vega, and Ethan Lane. And so I had two more like vocalist questions, and one being when you first come out on stage, that feeling of grabbing the microphone and hitting them with that first lyric.
Yeah.
What is that feeling like?
So I went to college for sports psychology, and if you've ever been on a stage or anything, it gets very hot up there. And
Yes.
it's a workout.
Okay.
I used to do this study called biofeedback, which balances your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system by controlled breathing and finding a zen. And I usually don't wear a hat on stage. I take my hat off, I shake my hair out, and I kind of just let it get all crazy. And then I grab the mic and I close my eyes. And I look at the guys, or I'll just be like, I'll give them the thumbs up. The backtrack will start. I hear it start in my in-ears, and I'm breathing, and I'm listening to it. I'm listening to everything. And then as soon as the first crescendo starts, it's like, yeah, and we're here. And then I do it. And it's just like, as soon as that first note hits, then it's like pure mayhem for me. Like it's like I find my zen for a second to get rid of the nerve. And then I just go right into it.
And can you carry that? I am so sorry. Okay. Getting interrupted here. Can you carry that like throughout the show, or does it go in waves, right? Because you have breaks during songs. So I'm curious about that. Is that just something that goes from start to finish?
Yeah, it's pretty much start to finish.
Okay.
Sometimes I get caught up in the music and I'll like laugh and I'll like kind of smile because I'm like, holy crap, I'm doing this 17 years later still.
That's great.
Or I'll see somebody in the crowd I've never met before and they're screaming every lyric. And then we played with a Skylight Drive and we were direct support for them. And there was this guy in the crowd and I looked at him and I'm screaming and I looked at him again and I'm like, this guy knows every damn lyric and we've never posted lyrics. And I was like, holy crap. And then we finished the song and I grabbed the mic and I pointed at him and was like, you know every single word, don't you? And he goes, yeah, I found you today. And I was like, you're a beast.
Wow. That's impressive.
And I was like, you're the shit, dude. Come to the merch table. I want to talk to you. And I just kind of feed off of that kind of stuff. Yeah. I don't really let it, I find my zen and then I stay there because then I realize, no, dude, you're happy to be here.
Yeah.
You're so happy. It's not a fear thing. It's not like it could be nerve wracking. I got to give a shout out to a Skylight Drive because Jordan Blake, their vocalist, um, and Nick were basically like, "Yeah, man, like we want you to come on stage and scream for us." But they didn't tell me that until about 24 hours before they played Swanfest at Cal Expo. Um, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And it was before our first show, and Brian White comes out from the side stage and he's like, "Greg," I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Hey, he's coming with me." He looks at the security guard. Security's like, I can't stop you. Like, you're in a band here. You're playing. And he's like, "Cool. I'm taking him back here." Takes me back. Goes, "You know A Reason for Broken Wings, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And he's like, "What are the lyrics?" And I told him the lyrics. And he goes, "Cool. You're going on. It's the fourth song." And I was like, "What?" And then Nick's like,
gosh.
"Hey, man, you're doing it." And I was like, "Oh, my God." And then Jordan's like, "Hey, man, what's up, man?" And he's like, "Hey, you're going to do this." And I was like, he's like, you got this, man." And I was just like, oh, shit. So, like, that feeling you're talking about, I didn't have that before that show. I didn't know how to find that.
So, yeah, you just basically depicted for us fear versus I'm in a happy place.
Yeah. Well, I got on the stage for a Skylight Drive, and I grabbed Brian's mic, and I looked up from pulling it off and looking down, then looking up, and I went, "Oh, crap, I can't see the end of the crowd." There were 5,000 people there.
Nice.
Staring me in the face, and all my friends in the front row going, "Oh my God!" And I'm just like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing that." I got weak-kneed for a second there, composed myself, and then I just did it. Was it good? Absolutely not. It was terrible. I was terrified. That was my first time getting on stage since I was 18 years old.
Wow.
And I mean, you're talking 31 years old, and I'm like, this was a long time ago for me. And getting on that stage, I was like, oh God.
It's real, right? I mean, it's
insane.
real.
It was a very insane feeling. So, like, now I go in with the perspective that, like, I've seen what that looks like.
Yep.
But now I know where to find my balance and my zen and to do that. And then after that, it's all fun.
Man.
But it's they were like, "Well, you can't be scared of 300 people now." And I was like, "You guys are dicks." I love you guys.
Man, talk about throwing you into the fire.
Oh, they literally were like, "You're doing this. Like, you got this." Like, they're like, gosh. "Don't worry. We're nervous as hell. We haven't played this album in 15 years. It'll be fine."
I love it. And so, Greg, I do have to ask the one last question I was thinking about. When you take the photos of the band, like, what's that like? You know, like you're trying to do your thing and like, this is who we are. Is there anything you could tell me about those photo shoots that would be interesting?
I mean, literally 5 seconds before the film, like the shutter goes off, half the time we're laughing, and then somebody says like a poop or pee joke, and then somebody's laughing, and then they're just like laughing, and then they're like, and you're like,
Get serious.
Just all over again, and we're just like, and then we go right back to banter, and everyone's like,
"Oh my gosh, okay, so funny."
I mean,
Greg,
it's great.
Go ahead.
No, it's great. It's just a lot of banter, and then, I mean, you just find the right location and stuff, and you just make it fun, man. There's nothing really glitz and glamour about it. I mean, there are moments for that, but
yeah. I love it. And so I want to wrap this up by just like your day job. Like we've mentioned, you're a barber. And so how long have you been doing that? And it's interesting that you say you're a barber because based on what you said on trying to, speak with intention, like that is the people business, right? People sitting in your chair and having those conversations. So take me through your 9-to-5 job and what that's like.
Yeah. So about a year ago, I came to Jimmy's. I was working at a salon for about a year, 2 years. It just fresh out of the pandemic, and then I had been cutting hair for a few years before that, so it was like I was not new, but I was like fairly new. Still, I've been doing it for almost 6 years now. I got into Jimmy's and started working and got busy and started meeting new people and stuff, and so it was it was kind of like it kind of happened on accident. I was working at Toyota at the time. Hurt my back. My friend was we were building an old '72 Yamaha XS650 bike, and he's like, man, he's like, you can't keep doing this, man. You're gonna hurt your back more. And I was like, yeah, man, I don't know. And he's like, you should go be a barber. And I was like, that sounds dumb as hell. Why do I want to talk to people all day? And I was like, do I strike you as the type of person that wants to talk all day?
And 6 years later.
And here I am, 6 years later, still doing it.
There is a lot of irony in your life, which is kind of funny.
So much irony. And I'm like, God, man, I really should just shut my mouth sometimes. I'm like,
oh
God,
my gosh.
foot in my mouth. It was funny. It was just funny. It kind of just worked out really well. And, you know, he always gives me crap. He'll message me and be like, still hate being a barber? And I'm like, no, I love it. And he's like, I bet. And I'm like, yeah, you'd be surprised on some of the interactions I get with people. Like, there's these random occurrences where, like this, you never know who's going to be in your chair.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I've met people. I actually cut Tom Barber's hair from Chelsea Grin once. Josh Miller from Darko and Spite. All the guys in Unity TX. I cut their hair before they played. Aftershock. Saving Vice came in. I cut their hair while they were on tour. You know, I'm friends with a bunch of people. And it's just like, it became kind of a way of networking for me. And it's kind of cool where people are like, dude, I checked out your band. You're sick. Like, I want to come to a show. And, like, I have this one client who literally has been to every single show we've ever played.
Nice.
And he just was my client. And now he's a friend.
Yep.
And he's like, dude, can't wait to hear the new song, man. I'm super stoked. Like, I mean, the guy shows up. Like, and it's just, it's super rad because being a barber, like, I do have a 9 to 5. But my boss really understands that I love my art, and she gives me the time to do it.
Nice.
And she's like, when are you leaving on tour? Give me the dates. I'll block it off. Have fun. We'll see you when you get back. And my coworkers have actually been to my shows. Most of them own merch from us. You know, these guys, like, they just show up and they're like, hey, I'm here. And I'm like, what the hell? And, like, they show up in the swarms, and they're like, this is so cool, man. We love watching you do this. And, like, you know, like, they kind of hype me up all the time. And I'm like, I'm not like that. I don't take a lot of, like, the constructive criticism, like, the constructive parts of, like, my life. Like, everyone's like, you're amazing. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like,
but that just means you're humble. See, you're humble. And it's interesting that this barber kind of experience really has lent to what I think that you connected it to, which is the networking, which is necessary for you and your band to take it at the level it is to the next level. And it seems like that's what you're doing. Here's what you've revealed on the show. There's going to be new material coming. There might be something bigger than we know that's coming from your band. And so I think that gets people excited. And for me, as a host, it's like, man, I'm just glad this encounter took place because I know it and I see it happening and I cannot wait to see you guys live. And of course, I'm a fan. I'm in. I'm all in with you guys. And the fact that you shared your story the way you did, I think only enhances the experience. And that's what we talk about on First Look. You can listen to a song without the video and it does one thing. But then when you listen to the song with the video, it does another thing. And then when you have the opportunity to see a band in concert, it does another thing. This is the experience. And right now I'm getting like kind of this very unique level of being able to speak to you person to person that really has just brought it all together. So to me, this is like a very, very special moment. And I really thank you for what you've been able to share with us today.
Yeah, man. I honestly personally love like podcasts, interviews and stuff like that. I think they're very underrated. I listen to Gary V's podcast a lot.
Nice. Okay.
Gary Vaynerchuk he's a genius when it comes to things. But he always said podcasts underrated. And I've posted so many times on Twitter, who's got a podcast I'm trying to be on?
Yep.
And people say, why? And I'm like, I don't think you understand like how fun it is to do these podcasts. Mm-hmm. So thank you for having me as well, man. Cause it's like, this is my time to show people that, like, you know, let's say you are in a crowd at my show. Somebody's like, that dude's an arrogant prick. And you're like, no, I've actually had a lot of conversations with him. He's not like that. Like, it may seem that way, but he's not actually. He's got this method between everything that he does. And he has a reason why he won't have a full-blown conversation after the show. And they're like, really? And, like, you start getting that little bit. Or, like, people listen to a podcast and they get the, oh, that's why vocalists don't talk that long with people. Or, like, they'll talk to people and then they'll kind of dip out. And, like, yeah, they're trying to protect their voice, or, like, they have a long road ahead of them. Like, 2 weeks, a month, whatever. It's going to be very taxing on your body and your voice. So getting proper sleep, drinking water, not talking a whole lot, like, not raising your voice and, like, screaming over people that are, like, playing music, you're like, it's going to be difficult.
Right.
And so, when people have this interaction on a podcast, it means more on a podcast or an interview or anything like that to actually get to meet the people and, like, be like, know what they're about rather than what you see as an internet persona. Because unfortunately, I'm a content creator. I have to be. And so what people see on the internet, they believe is absolute and true.
Right.
Where it's very different.
And being able to separate that, and what this does, that's why I don't put any time limit on my conversations, because I feel like that's the beauty of the podcast is you just let it run. I've heard all the things. Yeah, hey, the stats show that if you do 20-minute, you'll get more listeners and this and that. I'm not in it for that. I'm in it for truly what it's supposed to be about, and that's the conversation. And I feel like this interview will be something that people can point to and really be able to see what depth you have as a lead singer and how much you care about your band. And then that changes the perspective for everybody that's, following your band. It takes it to another level, I guess is the best way.
Of course. Like, I don't think I'm better than anybody vocally. I think everyone has something that they can bring in. I think that there's so many bands that are underrated that are in the area. I and I support a lot of people because, I don't expect it back because I may not be for everyone, but I want to give as much as I can. And, I never really want to talk down on anybody or be like, oh, that vocalist sucks or this and that. I'm like, yeah, it's just not, I'm like, it's cool, but it's not for me.
There you go. And that's what I say on First Look is because I've listened to so many different songs. There's something has to stick out for me. And what stuck out for me with you was you as the vocalist. Like I said, the multiple layers of which I had never heard before. When I heard Spirit Box for the first time, that blew me away. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this, right? And then Ginger, I'm like, what is this? Amur, I'm like, that's exactly what I like. And then Kublai Khan, which was just about a month ago that I previewed, I'm like, I like it. But guess what? Within that, there's probably at least, 60, 70 other bands that we looked at that I'm just like, it's not that I don't respect the craft. It's just not my thing. It's just not in my lane. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so I can see you kind of have that same perspective. Like, this is who I am, right? And it's great if you love us. Awesome. We love that. If not, we totally understand.
Right. Yeah. And that goes with, like, me listening to other people's music too. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm going to be a mega fan of everyone's music. Like, there's certain bands I have on a heavy repeat, and it's just because what I like to listen to.
Yeah.
Or even most of my friends, they are like, what do you listen to on your off time? And I'm like, 80s synthwave and, like, Japanese like jazz fusion and stuff. And people are like, what? And I'm like, I listen to, like, Charlie Puth a lot more than anything. And I'm like, and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, don't be fooled by all these.
That's a guy saying one call away, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it, though. I love it.
I show up at a pop punk show and people are like, what the hell are you doing here? I'm like, I love Knuckle Puck. Like, they're, like, one of my favorite bands. And everyone's like, I'm sorry, I'm very confused right now. You're just at a really pop punk, like, I think it was Hot Mulligan and Knuckle Puck. And everyone was like, what the hell? What are you doing here? And they're like, I didn't even know you listen to pop punk. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, I listen to a lot of pop punk. And I was like, I love it.
I love it.
But it's like, you can't really judge me off of that. And, like, sometimes I go to shows with my wife just because, like, we want to go to a show specifically. And then there's other shows where I'm like, I got to go because I'm trying to network and I've been talking to this guy on the internet and I really, really badly need to talk to them in person and build a relationship with these guys so that they're watching.
I love it.
So it's about getting out of my comfort zone, even though I don't want to go out all the time and like want to be more recluse and like focus on my music and my life and my family. I want to focus on networking and trying to like not so much be on the internet and being like, hey, look at me, and I'm going to comment everything on,
right.
I'm like, hey, I want to meet you in person, and we're going to have this conversation. Mm-hmm. And if I can sell you on me as a person, then you'll be more, ready to see what I'm doing.
So Greg Molina, A Moment's Notice. What a conversation. As we close, let everybody know what are the best ways to find you. I know it's social media now. We're going to drop it in the show notes, but let's go ahead and tell everybody how they can find you.
Yeah. Honestly, the easiest way, and this is just the easiest way, if you go on our Spotify and type in A Moment's Notice, if you go all the way to the bottom and click where our picture is, it actually has our links to our Twitter, our Facebook, and our Instagram. And any of those, if you don't have Spotify, you can just type in A Moment's Notice Official on Instagram, or on Facebook, it's just A Moment's Notice. And then our link tree is in there. And then everything else is in there. So that you can find us from anywhere.
I love
after that.
I love it. Greg, this has been truly an honor. Thank you so much for the time that you have given us. And I'm sorry, another interruption. It's my wife trying to call me like, where are you? Because I told her I was supposed to be somewhere and everything, but I'm getting this interview with Greg. It's happening. So like I said, I did not want to cut you short. So anyways, just thank you so much for the opportunity. It has been just really a special thing for me. And I can't wait to see you guys live. I know you had said you guys are going on tour, but had mentioned that you would be local probably later in the summer. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, we have a free show. It hasn't been announced yet, but June 28th, it's on a Wednesday at Powerhouse in Folsom. We're headlining.
Okay.
There's only 3 bands, and we're just doing a free show just to kind of like shake off some cobwebs and kind of get ready for tour. And anything that we make from merch or from the tips from there is going to help us with the tour coming up in July. So, yeah.
I'm there. I mean, and that's great because, see, I'm a DJ and auctioneer, so my weekends are, tough. But Wednesday? Oh, yeah. So June 28th, Powerhouse Folsom. Okay, I'm there. And I told you I'm buying merch, so we got that all taken care of.
Absolutely.
Okay, Greg. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. We're going to dip out and come back with a final word. What a great conversation. Really, this is a bucket list item for me.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss an episode of Experience the Buzz by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. It means everything. Now, back to the show.
Oh, yeah. What a great conversation. I'm a happy guy right now. So cool, and I am so thankful that Greg Molina was able to join us. I had so much fun, and I am looking forward to following this band. You heard it from him. I mean, look what he did in this episode. He dropped the fact that there's a couple new singles coming out because they've only released an EP and a couple singles. And then from there, he said, hey, they're going on tour. And then he kind of put in there the free show in the summer on June 28th. I'll be there on a Wednesday night in Folsom. I thought that was cool. And then that little drop, that little hint of we are going from the local circle to maybe the more intermediate circle, which means this band's going to get known. I know it for sure. They are one of my top bands, and it's so cool that they're from Sacramento. And Greg could not really tell us about what it is to be a vocalist, to be a screamer, the preparation, which I thought was just fascinating, but really pulling back the curtain on his story. That time in the military, that was unexpected. I mean, and what he did, that was unexpected. But you can see that no matter what type of conversation that I have with anybody that comes on the show, All those things are part of someone's journey, right? And you can see it all makes sense. He's in the right place at the right time, and he's going to do a great job. So it's very cool that we were able to catch him here. And of course, we'll be able to look back and say, hey, we knew him when he hits the big stage in just a couple years with his band, A Moment's Notice. As he said, just go to Spotify, check them out there, but they are on Instagram at A Moment's Notice Official. And if you're a Twitter person, at A Moment's Notice _. All right. So until next time, so excited. And you know what? We'll do it again. We always do, right? So at this time, we say goodbye for now, and we'll see you on the next episode right here of Experience the Buzz. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for joining Steve this week on Experience the Buzz. Steve would love to hear from you. Leave a review or contact Steve directly with any questions at scbuzzard@gmail.com. To see the other adventures of Steve Buzzard, be sure to visit buzzardball.com.